Hello, everyone. Hi dear subscribers, and everyone visiting my channel. You are in the InStyle Knitting Studio. Today, we will be sewing a lining into a knitted hat. It doesn't matter. Whether it's a man's, woman's or child's hat, it all depends on the measurements. Therefore, for our work, we will need of course the hat into which we will sew the lining. Lining fabric. I have fleece fabric. Here is a nice stretchy fleece, thin. Next, we will need a sheet of drawing paper or any thicker paper preferably. A ruler, a pen, scissors and thread with a needle matching the color of our fabric. Mine is white. And also the height of the hat. The height of the hat is this length, divided by 2, around where the crown is. That is, here we measure from the forehead to the back of the head. This distance is divided by 2. This is our hat's height. The height of the lining is usually 1 centimeter less than the hat itself. If my hat height is 22 centimeters, for example, then the height of the lining will be 21 centimeters, since we will later sew the lining here, moving back from the edge about 1 centimeter, to ensure it doesn't peek out. So, we figured out the height, the circumference of the head. You can measure your head circumference using a measuring tape. Look, I already have a template. I will now tell you how to draw it. So, the height of my hat is 22 centimeters. I need a lining with a height of 21 centimeters. My head circumference is 54 centimeters. If the fabric doesn't stretch, how do we do it? We take our head circumference, which we measured with the measuring tape, and divide it by 4. In general, this part is 1/4 of the entire lining. So, we take the head circumference, divide by 4. We get 13.5 centimeters. We measure here 13.5 centimeters. Next, we measure up from this line 21 centimeters for the height of our lining. Thus, my cap has 22 minus 1 centimeter, so it is 21 centimeters tall. We have drawn these 2 lines and connected them. We obtained a rectangle next. We take this line and divide it into 5 equal parts. I have marked them with dots. One part is 2 whole 7/10 centimeters. We do the same for this side. These 2 sides. We also divide into 5 equal parts. I marked them with dots too. Each part is 4 whole 2/10 centimeters. Here I measure the parts again. Next, we place a point right here, that is, our first part is on the right. And we place a point right here, our second part. Here is the first and the second. We connect this line. Next, we place a point right here. Here is our first part out of 5. Here is the second part, somewhere in the middle of the second part. We place a point here and smoothly connect it to this point like this. We don't bend too sharply, so we don't end up with a pot shape. That is, we try to make it smooth, but not too sharply. Something moderate needs to be done, or our template is ready. We will cut out this shape later. Now I will show what I got. Here is our template. This is if the fabric does not stretch. If your fabric stretches, as in my case, then we take a piece of fabric, apply it to the head, and mark the spot. We measure the entire circumference with a fabric tape, not with a measuring tape. So you might think, well, here's the lining sitting on the head. We mark the spot and measure this distance with the measuring tape. I measured. In my case, it turned out to be 50 centimeters, not 54 centimeters. We will have the head circumference, which is 50. Accordingly, we divide 50 by 4 and measure out 12.5 centimeters here. That is, we start from the head circumference of 50 centimeters. But if you have the lining and you need to sew it for another person, you proceed like this. If the lining stretches, you measured your head circumference, which is 54 centimeters, with the measuring tape. You measured with fabric, and it turned out to be 50 centimeters. If, for someone you need to sew a lining for a head circumference, say, 57 centimeters, you need to find out how many centimeters that would be under the fabric. We calculate the proportions, 57 multiplied by 50, divided by 54. It results in 52.8 centimeters. Thus, if you are sewing a lining for someone whose head circumference is 57 centimeters, the fabric will stretch, and you need to sew the lining for a head circumference of 52. centimeters, it follows that we need to subtract about 5% from our head circumference, because our fabric stretches. Well, I drew a new template for the head circumference of 50 centimeters, and I'm now going to sew for my head circumference, which is 54, as I calculated, as I mentioned, and it turned out to be 50 centimeters. I made the template based on 50 centimeters, that is, we divide by 4 and measure out 12.5 centimeters here. Next, as I explained, I will now cut out this template. Well, that's it. This is what my little template turned out to be. I usually keep such templates. They lie with me, and I label them. For example, head circumference 50 centimeters, height 21. And then, if I need to make another lining, I will already have a template. But it can be done differently. You can, for instance, leave a little note, and then, if you need that template, just place a clean sheet on top and trace this figure. Then cut out this template on the clean sheet. So now we will start transferring our template to the fabric. I laid out the fabric, showing how we will transfer it now. I take and trace my template with a regular pen. I tried using soap, but I can't see it very well on this fabric. You can use soap, a marker, or a pencil. The main thing is that it should be visible. This is just the lining. Essentially, it will all be hidden in the seams, and it will wash out later. So look, we have this little template. We place it this way, so that this part is laid out like this. Next, we outline this figure of ours. Leave about 1 centimeter here on the side, so that the fabric doesn't end up exposed. Now, look at what we do next. We've outlined the figure. Now, we flip it like this. Again, we outline the figure, and then flip it. That means we should have 4 outlined figures. I will outline it now and show you what I got. But this is the kind of figure we should end up with. Now we need to cut it out. But don't forget that we need to leave a little space from the edge. I usually leave about half a centimeter from these top edges. From the bottom, I leave a bit more, about 1 centimeter, because we will fold the fabric when we sew it to the cap. This our bottom edge of the lining, which will be underneath on the forehead. So, here we retreat a bit more and cut. Here, it's 1/2 centimeter, just enough. To leave room for stitching, that's it. I'll cut it out now and show you. All done, I've cut it out. Just as I said, I have about 1 centimeter at the bottom here, and about 1/2 centimeter here. On the side too, about 1/2 centimeter. This is my front side, look. It was just easier for me to draw here. It's very difficult here. By the way, we didn't cut here. In what case should the figure remain whole? By the way, mine didn't turn out very well, because I was drawing on the front side. It's okay, I think it will be erased, that's all. So look, we start sewing. What are we going to sew these two parts? Like this, house parts, and these two parts, also house parts. Like this then, after we sew these two parts, we will sew this and the back show. To begin, I will turn my work around. Since when sewing, the wrong side should face us. Here's my wrong side. So we take it and fold it like this. It's better to draw the template on the wrong side. But mine is fluffy, so it was hard for me to draw on the wrong side. We fold and sew these two parts and these two. Now, I will show you up close how I will sew. Well, I've already stitched one side. And now I will show how it's done, how I sew. Well, I take these two parts, fold them. With the right side in, wrong side to me. I start sewing from here. Down this point from here to there. We take the thread with the needle. I usually sew with 2 threads. We tie a knot, we take not too long a thread. Well, maybe I took it a bit too long, which could get tangled, so we folded. We insert the needle away from us, and then towards us. We pull the thread through. Next, we insert the needle into this spot where our thread went, where our knot is. We bring it to the wrong side and pull it out. Well, here, behind this thread, we do not make very big stitches, then we again insert the needle here. Where our last stitch ends, and pull it out behind the thread, so we insert the needle where our last seam ends, to the wrong side, and pull it out behind the thread that comes out here. I don't know what this seam is called. Maybe you know of some better stitches. I am not a seamstress, I am not in the know. I am just showing what I do myself. These are the small stitches I make. I try not to make them big because, well, to make it tighter and better. And we check the tension so that I do not pull the thread too tight, so the fabric does not bunch up. So, we insert the needle here and pull it out with the thread. This is the stitch. This is how it looks from the inside. That's it. We are sewing. We have sewn. This is how it turned out for us. Now we perform the last stitch, look. We fold the lining like this. And here is the back seam. This entire seam will be at the back for us. And this is on the forehead. Usually I sew from this point along the entire cap, skipping this seam here. I sew here and up to this point there. That is, we need to make such a long stitch. We sewed the same way we sewed these two parts. Well, that's it, we have sewn. I also forgot to mention. Yes, I even forgot that my cap comes with a pom-pom. Therefore, to ensure the pom-pom is removable, we need to leave a small opening here when sewing. That is, not finishing the seams. I have already fixed it here. I cut a little and hemmed it, just so we can pull the ribbons from our pom-pom through this opening. This is the lining we have now. I ironed it to wash out these drawn lines. Therefore, now we need to attach this lining to the cap itself. So, we take the cap. We align it on the left side, inside out, and we take our lining. We also turn it inside out. Thus we take the lining and put it on our hat, so that the right side is on top here like this. What do we do next? Next we need to stitch the lining here. I do not stitch at the top, because ribbons for the pom-pom will need to be pulled in here. So now let's smooth out the hat well. We need to stretch this hat onto something so we can sew it in a stretched form like this. I usually sew on my knee, but I will not show you that now. Sewing on a bent knee seems very simple to me. Therefore, if there is no 3-liter jar handy, or something like that, you can easily sew on your knee. But right now, to show you the seam, how I sew, I will stretch my hat onto a spool. Sometimes I do it this way. Here I have such a spool, right? I place it and put the hat on top like this. So you understand, the hat needs to be pulled well onto something along with the lining. Now, I will start sewing a little. Then I will also show you what kind of seam it turns out and how I sew. Here friends, look. I have stitched a bit. I have about 1 centimeter here, maybe a little less. I turned up the lining. In principle you don't need to turn it up. You can just stitch it. If the lining is very thick, you can skip turning it up and just stitch it so that it does not pucker here. Look, now I will quickly show you how I do this. The needle has come out of my hat. Right, the main one. I take the needle from right to left here, into the lining. Opposite, I count like this. I pierce and pull the thread through, while simultaneously turning it. I twisted it next. Opposite the thread that came out, I look for the loop and insert the needle from right to left into the loop. Like this. And again we twist everything so it gets fixed like this. Next, I have the thread that came out from the main cap. I place the lining like this on my finger. I insert the needle from right to left on top. Push it in and pull the thread. At the same time, I twist it. Next, opposite the needle, we look for the loop from right to left. We catch this loop, like this. The thread has come out from the main cap. Again, I place the lining on the thumb of my left hand, and insert the needle from above like this. We twist the lining. Opposite the thread, we look for the loop again. This is basically how I stitch. I have the thread that came out from the main cap. I place it on my thumb, and not far away. From the thread that came out, I stick the needle in about 1 centimeter. I don't know, girls, this is how I stitch. Not like this, but I always do it this way, and I basically like it. I have never tried to stitch differently. This way, we are attaching the lining. But it's better of course on the lap, because the cap stretches more there. It's better when it is slightly stretched so that our thread doesn't pull the cap when we put it on the head. That's it, friends. I am going to finish on my lap, and then I will show you what I got. Well, that's it, friends. We have attached our lining. Now let's turn our cap inside out. So, this is what the insulated cap turned out to be. Now we just need to attach the pom-pom. So, we insert the hook into this hole that we left and pull through the ribbons or threads. To which the pom-pom is attached, one is on each side. We pull in the second ribbon. That's it. I'm tying a knot here and making 2 bows. They do not bother me at all when I wear my hat. And when I suddenly need to wash it, I simply untie everything and wash without the pom-pom. That's it, friends. We have sewn the lining and our hat is ready. Friends, thank you for watching. Stay with us, subscribe, like, and see you soon.